You received a call from an inmate at the Department of Corrections. This call will be recorded and monitored. If you wish to block any future calls of this nature, dial 7 now. To accept this call, press 5 now. To decline this call, hang up.
Hello, Wei Wei. Haven't heard from you in a while. Really? A necklace and a cell phone. Well, I've heard of cell phones being smuggled into a prison, but I'm not sure why somebody would give an incarcerated person a necklace, especially a personal necklace that can identify, unless, of course, they wanted to be caught, because that's kind of weird. No, you have to admit, it is kind of strange to hear a story like that. Oh, wow, really? Walking up and down the halls, bragging about the necklace. Yeah, well, if anybody could discover it, it's the other people that are in the prison. They'll know that it's not standard prison issue to get a necklace like that. But I don't know. It just seems kind of fishy that somebody be walking around bragging about getting a necklace from one of the staff members. Well, I do have respect for the nurses. I did see them in the case of Paula Gardner, help her out and give her some information that the official word wasn't. And there's a lot of times that the prison officials just don't like what's going on. I mean, you can go to trials out there and witnesses that come up and say, I just wasn't comfortable with what the defendant was doing or saying, or the plans that the defendant was making. I can understand people feeling a little apprehensive about that. And here lately, with a lot of stuff going on in that prison, it's just being buried. It's good to know that there's people that are at least sharing it. So I do like the fact that there's a person that's confiding in you and you're wanting to get the information out. I can't beat that. That's good. Yeah, but you have to think about it though. Doesn't it seem like this is just a setup? It's almost like that story where the people commit a crime and then they really don't want to survive because they're contemplating suicide, or they don't want to go back to prison, and so they'll get into a shootout and then wind up being killed while they're in the shootout with the law enforcement. And this woman, she knew not a lot was going to happen to her. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that these guards do. I mean, poisoning another inmate. Jeez. Well, okay, all right. I agree with you on that. It Love does make people do some of the weirdest things, and they don't really think. I mean, after all, it wasn't that long ago that a prison guard had got into a relationship with somebody and then helped that person break out. And of course, he's back in prison and she's dead. So it's just, you got a one-way ticket on something like this. And what doesn't make sense to us could make complete and total sense to the people that do it. So that's the difference between those who commit the crimes and those who just have no desire to do so whatsoever. And talking to you guys gives us a better understanding of what's going on inside your mind and what
You have 60 seconds remaining.
signs to look for when other people are contemplating things like that. Yeah, I know. I know. Going out and just bragging about it. And I guess almost that was the way it was for me. I was doing something that I shouldn't have been doing, and that was bragging about it. And I know it was going through my mind. I just enjoyed what I was doing, and I saw no wrong in it.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
Well, I don't know. If I had it to do again, I probably would do the same thing. And sometimes, the consequences kind of pay off. Because if you're a writer working on a team and then you do something and get fired and then you go write on your own that you never would have thought of, yeah, right. Yeah, you could have a best-selling book or a great script for a play. Well, thanks for sharing that, and I'll get it out to the
Thank
public.
you for using inmate call. Goodbye.
Hello, and welcome to AQS Inmate Call. I am your host, Joel Wilborn, and in this episode, I want to discuss the the things that go on inside of a prison. And one thing that a lot of us like, and we don't want to admit it, is drama or gossiping. And when we hear things about other people, I guess maybe it's like, oh, look what this person's going through. We thought this person had such a fabulous life and everything's falling apart. And maybe deep down inside, we all feel better to hear things like that because we know there's somebody worse off. And we can watch movies and TV shows and series on cable. But all in all, it's just that it's something different out of the ordinary. And it takes us away from the normal blah blah. And it surprises us in a lot of cases too. Now, I've seen a lot of drama that happens when the people get out of prison because, of course, on the outs, there's multiple instances of drama. And in the prison, unless you have a personal connection in there, you don't really hear about the stuff that goes on. And then there's some things they just want to hide. Now, in the case of Gary Ridgway, when he was poisoned by a prison official, they wanted to shove it under the rug. And when people come in from the federal government, put into state prisons, like in the state of Washington, and they're terrorists, and so terrorists are put in American prisons, it costs the taxpayers a lot of money, but that's money that's just attributed to normal day-to-day operations of the prison, and it's all hush-hush. Don't talk about this. And I was on social media, the X platform, and the Abolition Christian posted about an investigation that was being conducted to verify all this stuff and to get some more details on the story. But it's about the people who cross over the American border illegally. They're crawling over the fences and going through the streams and hiding in vehicles. But they're getting into the country illegally. They're not going through the normal process, which most Americans don't mind. You go through the process, you get approved, you come over here. Any country would support that. But these folks are bypassing all that. And they get caught. And a lot of the young folks are put in Washington prisons. And it's costing between $63,000, maybe $120,000, depending on the condition. You know, an older person with medical conditions is going to cost a little bit more. But the prisons take them in, house them, care for them, and then process them to be sent out. And sometimes they'll go back to the country where they're treated even worse, or sometimes they'll just pop back over again. But whatever they do afterwards, the main thing is that they're being housed in Washington prisons. And we'll look at the stats and say, wow, there's not a lot of prisoners in these prisons. These guys fly under the radar. They're like the terrorists that are put in the prison. So while the taxpayers, not just Washington state taxpayers, but the United States taxpayer, is paying for these folks to be locked up. And we don't know what happens through the whole process because it's just hush-hush. And so the stats, like the Department of Corrections like to do, looks good. You know, recidivism isn't that bad. Of course, because if you have 500 people in a prison, and 250 of them are deported, it's going to look like 500 come out and maybe 4 or 5 go in. So the stats aren't that bad. And we can kind of just turn away from the prison as long as there's no major riots or escapes, or somebody comes out and files a major lawsuit. We're not going to hear about it. And then you have those people on social media, and then those investigative reporters, and sometimes even news magazines. 60 Minutes may go in and just kind of check on it. And even in a big, let's say there's a international press corps that broadcasts all across the United States and the world about some conditions that's going on in a Washington State prison. We'll hear about it. We'll read it. We'll see. We'll see the stories, and we'll be shocked. What's going on. But then you look up for a follow up, and nothing's done. Maybe somebody resigns. I'll say that in quotation. And I've seen a few officials do that. Or maybe somebody will be transferred, or maybe somebody will quit, or maybe you just don't hear about them. They don't talk about them anymore. So the officials involved aren't really prosecuted, or they aren't really taking the trial for any crime that a person who is not in that position would be. Now we're hearing about whistleblowers dying, and we have laws where people can't retaliate against a whistleblower, especially those that are telling something. If they know their company's dumping toxic waste into the ocean, and they sneak out and tell the press, and it gets all over the news, that's the type of person you don't want just fired. Oh, you told on this guy. Give them a nice little exit package, a lot of money or something to go to leave, but don't kill them, and don't fire them and give them nothing. So that's good. But the prison system, boy, it's just like a good old boys network. There's all kinds of stuff that goes on in there, and they're taking money from us. I mean, in this state, when you want to call somebody that you love, it costs money. It costs more money for them to buy items in the commissary. And it's kind of weird too, because they're making it like $1 an hour. And yet, imagine making $1 an hour and going into the grocery store, and a candy bar is $1.50. You would think making that much money, you'd go back like 100 years or something. $1 could go a long way. Things were like 15 cents or 2 cents or something. Like a candy bar is 2 cents. Yeah, having $1 in your pocket would be nice. But they don't lower the prices. Prices are with inflation, so the income should go up. And I'm hoping one day that they'll come to their senses and pay these people. And they may, once that big budget gets out there, people say, we don't want to be paying these people minimum wage. Washington has a high minimum wage. Let's just let them out in the public where they can prove themselves and pay taxes, and we can get some money. And their taxes can go toward the other people who need to be in the prison. Maybe someday we'll see that. But my source inside of Washington State Penitentiary told me that there was a person who was wearing a necklace and bragging about it. And it was a necklace that you don't normally see on the approval list. And you can get necklaces through you can get care packages, and there's a store online that the loved ones can buy things from and send them, or even the people in the prison can go to these stores and buy things and have them mailed to them. And there's like crosses, religious items, and people tend to get used to it because it's the same style, just different sizes maybe, like shoes and pants and shirts and rings, other type of jewelry. But this wasn't your standard one. And he was bragging about it. Look at this. And they knew, well, this didn't come from that. And he had a cell phone in his house, as my informant said. Now, what's interesting about this one is this incarcerated person fell in love with a nurse, and the nurse gave him the cell phone so that he could call her and they wouldn't be monitored. And that's a classic thing. Cell phones are all over that prison, any prison, anywhere. And so to do that, to call people and send pictures and text messages, that's a huge plus for somebody who's locked away in prison. It's a big advantage. And so why would somebody who's been deprived for so many years of these things not want to take advantage of them? You get physical contact with a person, you get a nice piece of jewelry. These are things that are tempting. And it's easy to take advantage of some of the people who are incarcerated, just like sometimes the incarcerated take advantage of the people who work there. It's just a process, and it goes there. But when you're in a prison and you're running that prison, you got to expect this stuff to happen. I'm sure there should be some training out there. Hopefully there is, where they're told that you need to be careful for things that are said, the contact that's made, and requests that are made, because these people could be trying to manipulate you, and you need to be careful about talking to the folks because you don't want to get caught up in some kind of those scandal or illegal or improper or immoral act that could get everybody in trouble, especially if it's leaked out to the press. They can do so much to hold these things back, but people are communicating over social media from inside the prisons, so a lot of stuff is getting out, and if you look for it, you can find it quite easily. And even, like I said, when the major news organizations promote it, they're still able to hide it. It's almost like you got video cameras everywhere, and you got multiple witnesses, voice recordings, and cell phone recordings, and people see, oh yeah, these people busted down the wall and went into the store and just stole all these items, and then nobody's prosecuted. And you're thinking, there it is. There's all the evidence, but nobody's going to prison. You kind of wonder why. What's the story behind it? And one of them is they just don't want this negative press getting out there. But it's happening in the prison. Now, my informant also told me that he has a girlfriend that some of the other prisoners know. And they were talking to him about it and said, hey, you're in a relationship with her. Can you hook her up with us? Maybe when we get out, we can get together like that. And he was saying these people have a lot of money that's put on their books. And so they're able to buy a lot of stuff from the commissary. And that's what they're offering. Say, I'll give you some top ramen or some canned soup. Maybe some tennis shoes or something. And they've got plenty of books, or plenty of money on their books. And he was saying that they're just maxed out. And who knows who's supporting the money outside. And could be multiple people. They could have women that are just like them. But it's kind of interesting how they're offering to trade these things to get something that won't even be available for a while, because time is beginning to just be a tool to be used for an advantage, or just something that they know that they're going to have to wait for anyway. And especially those who've been in and out of prison so many times, it's more like, okay, I've got 10 years, I got to wait. And they're using what they can as an advantage. Now, with all this stuff that's hidden in the prison and all this money that's spent caring for these people, you would think people would be less likely to send folks to prison. We're spending a lot of money and we're not really getting any results. It's like Shane Goldsby told me. They're going in bad and they're coming out badder. And here he is, he's locked in there, and his wife told me that he's in isolation a lot. And he's really not allowed to get out and just mingle with other folks. They consider him a danger. Or at least I hope that's why. But he really got the raw end of the deal anyway. And his victim walks away with a whole bunch of money. Or his victim's family walks away with a lot of money while he's stuck in there for another 25 years. And this is that kind of stuff we need to know about. We need to know where our money's going. Why are we paying all these lawsuits? Why is not all the lawsuits broadcast? I know you can read the local newspaper and you can hear about people going to court and what their sentence is. Maybe 6 months probation, or they have to pay a fine, or they're going into jail and get credit for time served. Why not put a little section in the paper, or make it available to the public in a mass way? Maybe they might have a page on social media where you can go and see where the money is going. How much money is being spent for lawsuits? How much money is being spent for medical? And how much money does it cost per incarcerated person to just live in the prison? And is it worth it to pay all of that? So I'm hoping this is something that you're concerned about. Yes, we need to lock up people, but no, we don't need to lock up everybody. There's some people in there that can make it out there. We've got people in other states like Alabama who are being denied parole. These are people that are going before the board. They're doing what they can. You know, they're probably not getting any infractions. They're following all the rules. They're keeping to themselves. That's what a lot of folks, when they go to prison, that's the advice they give. Just keep to yourselves. Don't share information. Don't talk about your personal life. And they're doing this. They're textbook. Yet when they go before the parole board, they're getting denied. They're forced to live under our care. And yeah, it's tough out here. But if we're short manpower, why should we bring in illegal immigrants when we have people that are sitting in a prison that want to get out and work? Let them out on work release. Let them out, put them on home monitoring. But they, after being in prison several years, they want to be out and they want to do what they can to stay in there. To stay out. And especially single parents. A woman who's away from her child for an extended period of time, it's maddening. I just had a couple weeks ago, I had a conversation with someone like that. And she's out here and she does not want to go back to prison. And I would even have discussions with folks that would say, what would you be willing to do to stay out of prison? If they put you on home monitoring, would you follow the rules? Would you stay employed? Would you work 40 hours a week? Maybe a second job? Would you be available whenever somebody comes in to check up on you? Would you make your weekly or daily calls? And pretty much everybody. I didn't run into any no's, but everybody would, yeah, I would be willing to do that if I could just stay there with my kid. And single parents, male and female, moms and dads, they're more willing to follow the rules and do what's right, especially if they know there's somebody out there that's going to check on them, check on their health, and check on the nutrition and education of these children and them. They know that they've got somebody caring for them. Hey, they're willing to make that sacrifice and follow the rules and do what's needed to get through it. And then it's something they learn. They're learning a skill. They're learning responsibility, and they're learning that they can do it. Instead of being told you're worthless and you can never make it in society, they're being taught just follow these rules and you'll do fine. Just like a CPS doing an investigation on in child endangerment. They're looking for certain things. Well, we can do it. We can find alternative ways, and we need to keep crime out of the prison. We need to keep secrets. We need to expose all secrets and keep them from being kept in these prisons. And there's going to be more. You go to social media, you talk to people. When I talk to people on the ride home after I pick them up, there's a lot of stuff that I learn. And I'll share as much as I can. I don't expect too much to be done, but the more we talk about it, the more people realize what their tax money is being used for. I think we might make some dent in this little thing. I'm really getting tired of paying millions of dollars to people who pretty much the state is responsible for killing or harming or abusing. It's just wrong. Well, have yourself a magnificent day and go out and make super memories for tomorrow.